Honorable Speaker, for this chance, and I'll take a very short time. It is important for a country and a region, a country like Kenya in a region like Africa, to have as many sources of revenue as possible and financing as possible. And Honorable Speaker, Shelter Afrique, just like many other peers that deal with the regional matters, is important, and especially in providing financing that is needed in taking the economies of Africa forward. And Honorable Speaker, it is important even for our country to have subscriptions in other, and to keep on actually adding the amount of shares and subscriptions they have in some of the regional development bodies, Honorable Speaker, and especially a body like a Free-Exim, which has always come through for a country like Kenya. Honorable Speaker, another entity like ADB, African Development Bank, we have seen it take great part in the growth of the infrastructure in Kenya, and especially citing a road like Thika Road, Honorable Speaker, which was co-funded also by the African Development Bank. And Honorable Speaker, it goes to calling, and especially the leadership of the African countries, when we talk about the bodies like this, that actually addresses the same issues that we are grappling with as the economies in the global south, and especially in the African continent, that we keep on just not giving the lip service, but the necessary support needed to grow the capitalization of these companies, to grow the core capital, to grow the shareholders' funds, so that these resources again can come back to the African continent in terms of funding critical infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, it is also important for these kind of bodies to also place merit when, and especially they are having the people who lead them, so that there is versatility also in terms of growth. Because many times we see the leadership of these bodies and these institutions, we focus more on the region in terms of where they are coming from in the African continent. And Honorable Speaker, we don't give enough emphasis on the competencies of the people, and especially who come at the helm of leading these organizations. Honorable Speaker, as I come to the close, we have seen in many countries and in many continents. Honorable Speaker, it's not a coincidence when we talk about the growth in the Asian tigers, and especially also across Asia. It is not a coincidence that one economy grows and the other neighboring economies also follow suit. It is not a coincidence that you find countries that are geographically located around one another, that when one of them leaps forward, the others also follow suit. It is deliberate, and some of them is actually catapulted, Honorable Speaker, by the regional banks which provide resources, both to the sovereign and also to the private sector, and especially in big-ticket private sector financing requirements. When you look at a country like China, for example, also, Honorable Speaker, beyond the normal commercial banks, we also have development banks owned by the government of China. This is almost similar bodies as the one we are discussing today, which mandate of these development banks, Honorable Speaker, comes into providing finances that most of the time the commercial banks will necessarily not afford, because they are able, out of their abundance of the core capital, they are able to fund huge ticket projects, both in the public sector and the private sector, and that goes a long way into growing economies. Honorable Speaker, I also want to call upon all of us, even as Kenya, to also look at models of economic growth. For example, for a country like Nigeria. Honorable Speaker, in the entire of Africa, Nigeria could be having the highest per capita concentration of black billionaires. Billionaires who are African and who are black. But Honorable Speaker, if you look at how these entrepreneurs grew, people like Aliko Dangote, the entrepreneurs in Globacom, like for example in Nigeria, entrepreneurs, the founders of UBA Bank, Access Bank, you will always find, including BUA Group, which spans across many sectors. you find that there is a lot of involvement of regional financing bodies, and especially precisely Afrexim. Afrexim has come a long way into actually shaping entrepreneurship in Nigeria, where we see big ticket private sector projects being financed even by these kind of financial institutions. And that is why it is important for Kenya to have subscriptions, but also for us to look inwards, that the private people, the private entrepreneurs, and especially those who are launching huge projects, they find avenues of also getting not so exorbitantly priced financing from these kind of bodies. Because we have seen it work, as I have said, in areas and regions like Asia. We have seen it work in countries as robustly entrepreneurial as China. And we have also seen how the economy of a country like Nigeria has gotten transformed out of the financing from bodies like Afrexim, ADB, Honorable Speaker, African Finance Corporation, Honorable Speaker, and many of such. And that is why even subscription and also additional capital for Kenya into bodies like Shelter Afrique is important, because they go into bridging infrastructure gaps that exist. Honorable Speaker, lastly, because we are discussing about financing, I know the Speaker gave a way forward in terms of what Kenyans woke up today in terms of the sale of Safaricom. And I'm putting it in here because, Honorable Speaker, a company like such, we have seen them actually funded by these kind of bodies like you are discussing today. And I'm happy the Speaker has already given a way forward that we need a robust public participation on the sale of Safaricom, because the way we are selling it at 34 shillings per share is grossly undervalued, and especially given the fact that Safaricom share was at 45 shillings in 2021 at a valuation of 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings, Honorable Speaker, and it will be a gross injustice to the Kenyan people when the National Treasury and government undersells such a prized asset as Safaricom, Honorable Speaker, and goes even away further of trying to securitize dividends that will be coming at future revenue from Safaricom. That beyond the consideration, the government is actually asking for dividend in advance. Kenya will exist now, Kenya will exist in the next 2 years, Kenya will exist in the next 5 years. We must stop this issue of wanting political clubs today by securitizing future revenue, because Kenya is a going concern. We will still need these revenues in the future, and therefore, Honorable Speaker, that is why the entire deal of selling 15% stake in Safaricom that GeoKeng is trying to do must be looked into further, and especially valuation, because the current level is grossly undervaluing Safaricom, and this cannot be tolerated. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Mary Adan Kenan, are you on this one also? Because I can see your name on the screen. Who else is interested in this? The issue for Shelter Afrique. Okay, under the circumstances, I'll call on the mover to reply.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to beg to move this motion by, first of all, thanking